Coming to you live from the Now Media Newsroom.
It's Jim Check from Now Media. We're going to go live to the Kelowna RCMP detachment there. They're doing a live briefing there. Let's go live there now.
I want to acknowledge that it's taken a few days for us to speak publicly. That delay was intentional. When public safety and public confidence are at stake, it's important that we speak based on complete and accurate information. First and foremost, I want the public to know this. Public safety is my responsibility, and I take that responsibility seriously. Our officers come to work every day with one purpose: to keep the community safe, supported, and thriving. We live here too. We understand the impact these issues are having on our local residents and businesses. We recognize that social disorder, whether it's public nuisance issues, visible street level crime, or ongoing disorder, has a real and direct impact on how safe people feel in their community. That impact is real and it matters. People don't experience safety as a statistic. They experience it as broken windows, fires, repeated disruptive behavior, and a growing sense that unacceptable is being normalized. We hear these concerns every day from residents, businesses, and our community partners. It is important to be clear about this distinction. Social disorder is not a policing issue alone. It is tied to complex and intersecting factors such as untreated mental health challenges, addiction, homelessness, and repeat offending. While police play a critical role, enforcement alone cannot address the root cause of what we are seeing. That is why we continue to work closely with our partners such as Interior Health, the City of Kelowna, Bylaw Services, Fire Department, Community Safety Services Branch, and other community organizations. Public safety is a shared responsibility, and meaningful change requires everyone at the table. We know there's a strong perception in the media and the community that break-in and enter offenses are skyrocketing. Despite that data showing a decline, any break and enter to any residence or business is unacceptable, and I acknowledge the impact that those directly affected and the community as a whole have. Police statistics are based on reported crimes and incidents. In the business community, some incidents are reported for insurance purposes, while others are not, because it is quicker or less costly to repair the damage directly, and the belief that calling the police won't make a difference. We acknowledge those limitations. What we can say clearly is this: reported break-in enters are down compared to the same period last year. At the same time, social disorder is up, and that distinction matters. We are actively monitoring these trends. We're identifying repeat offenders, and we're deploying targeted enforcement strategies where they will have the greatest impact. This is why reporting incidents to police is so important. Some of our strategies will include, and you will see, proactive intelligence-led patrols on foot and in vehicles in the most high-impact areas using both uniformed and plainclothes officers. We have dedicated property crime teams targeting prolific offenders and disrupting criminal activity. We'll have a rapid response to calls and situations where public safety is at its highest risk, and a strong partnership with business and community groups and service providers to improve prevention, reporting, and support. We have direct engagement with residents and businesses to hopefully enhance our crime prevention efforts, and a dedicated community liaison officer who collaborates with business groups to improve prevention and reporting. The board to my left is a small example of results from our targeted enforcement initiatives to combat the upstream drivers that directly impact the social disorder that we are seeing on the streets. Public safety is a shared responsibility. Law enforcement must be part of public policy discussions because public policy decisions directly affect safety outcomes on the street. Police leaders have a responsibility to speak honestly about these challenges when we have the opportunity and to ensure our voices are heard to help inform those decisions. As the officer in charge, I will continue to work every day to keep this community safe, to support our business and residents, and to be transparent about both what we can do and the challenges that we face. With that, I will now turn the mic over to the City of Kelowna's Community Safety Director, Darren Call. Thank you.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Superintendent Gable and the Kelowna RCMP for your continued and ongoing partnership. My name is Darren Call, and I am the city's Community Safety Director. In the room today, out the back, you'll see that I'm joined by City Manager Doug Gilchrist, Kelowna Fire Chief Dwight Seymour, Bylaw Services Manager, Kevin Mead, Community Safety Manager, Kevin Duggan, and our Social Development Manager, Colleen Cornock. As well, thank you for joining us, Jamie Lloyd-Smith from the Canadian Mental Health Association of Kelowna. I know that we can all agree that safety and sense of safety is fundamental to a healthy and economically prosperous community. That's why City Council has made public safety a top priority, reflected in significant investment over the past number of years, both financially and through focused city efforts. Over the past few years, Council has approved numerous additional public safety resources, including RCMP, bylaw, and fire. Budget 2026 includes an additional base budget funding of $5 million for increasing costs of public safety. These investments matter, and we fully acknowledge that they have not yet fully translated into the level of safety or response times that businesses need right now. We know that some neighborhoods and businesses are experiencing acute challenges that require immediate, focused, and sustained attention. Now, to be clear, this isn't new for us. The city has been actively addressing issues for some time, and we're intensifying our efforts where they are needed the most. Kelowna has long been a strong advocate for public safety. And while these challenges are not unique to Kelowna, our programs in advocacy are making us a leading voice across the province and federally. We continue to call for change and stand up for our businesses and our residents. Through collaborative efforts such as our 5-year community safety plan, the Mayor's Task Force on Crime Reduction, and several other initiatives, these are generating real action for Kelowna. One example is the crisis response community-led initiative known as CIRCLE. Delivered through the Canadian Mental Health Association, CIRCLE Kelowna will support 13-plus-year-olds in mental health or substance use crises. With trained community members handling these calls, it means that our finite police resources can focus their time and efforts on crime and public safety initiatives. This initiative which is ramping up to full operations this very month, is just one of several practical local solutions we're implementing. We need initiatives like CIRCLE as part of a balanced approach of education, prevention, intervention, and yes, enforcement. While RCMP and bylaw teams are partnering to deliver enhanced visibility and coordinated responses to address social disorder downtown, as Superintendent Gable mentioned, we are also working with the Downtown Kelowna Association with enhanced city funding under the Mayor's Task Force for its exceptional Downtown On-Call Red Shirts program, educating businesses and residents on practical steps that each and all of us can take to reduce risk and prevent potential issues. And starting last week, actively engaging downtown businesses in what we're calling a knock and talk initiative. This initiative allows us to meet our businesses where they are at, knocking on their doors and listening to their concerns, sharing resources, and working together on issues that matter to them now. The work we are doing has a goal of keeping Kelowna safe, prosperous, and vibrant. Under safe, we're taking immediate actions to address issues that businesses are facing right now, such as regular joint foot patrols with the RCMP and bylaw. We expect that businesses, their staff, as well as our residents and our visitors should begin to notice a difference in our downtown area. It is paramount to protect our downtown, ensure our businesses are accessible, safe, and prosperous, and to always protect the renowned reputation we have as a city to welcome the world. While we carry out this first wave of actions and closely monitor the impacts, we're also looking at additional ways to assist the business community and reduce the impacts of social disorder. Through the ongoing business conversations, we're able to hear as well the ideas of our business. Focus on crime prevention through environmental design practices to help businesses prevent the issues that occur. Visible RCMP bylaw presence will also reinforce this safety and that important confidence. We also need to ensure that we remain vibrant. We recognize and value the economic impact that local businesses bring to Kelowna. We want to see more events, more businesses, and more supports, choosing downtown Kelowna. As I noted earlier, we know that we're making progress citywide on a crime front. We also know that there's more to do, particularly around social disorder, particularly in our downtown. This is where we need your help. First, please report issues promptly and consistently. If the RCMP don't know, they can't go. Call 911 for emergencies and crimes in progress. The RCMP's non-emergency line for other concerns and issues, or to submit tips on criminal or suspicious activity. You could also use the city's service request on kelowna.ca for bylaw-related issues. Timely reporting helps the RCMP and the city to deploy resources, target hotspots, and measure what works. All these items combined assist us with making lasting and impactful changes in Kelowna. There is, as Superintendent Gable said, no single solution, and we have to work as part of a continuum on education, prevention, intervention, and enforcement. It's not enforcement alone. Only when we work together are we best positioned to address safety issues in Kelowna. We are listening, we are acting, and we are very committed to ensuring that the city is safe, prosperous, and vibrant. And with that, I'll turn it over to our moderator for questions.
So just as I had stated before, if you'd like to ask a question to either Superintendent Gable or Darren Cole, then please just state your name and the media outlet that you represent, and they will answer the question accordingly. Thank you.
I have a question for Darren. Cindy White from Castanet. When we spoke to the mayor last week, he mentioned the increased patrols, the cooperation between bylaw and RCMP. I'm just wondering, how does the public know who to call? If there's a fire, if there's homeless people setting a fire somewhere, who do you call? If there's people congregating in the back of your building, who do you call? Is it always the RCMP, or should they be going to other places first?
I really appreciate the question, and in addition to one of the key objectives of our community safety services staff who are out talking to businesses through is to provide more information and clarity on who to call, when to call. The reality is, and we have pamphlets online and so forth. The reality is it's very situation dependent, and we're successful when people are able to make that call. And even if it's not, if they call bylaw and it's an RCMP matter, we're most successful when we provide that seamless response of ensuring that the caller is able to connect with the right resource in a timely manner. But it is situation dependent, and that's one of the areas that we're working to get more information out there more rapidly.
Okay, so if someone calls 911 or calls the police about, say, someone setting a fire, that's not a danger to a business and it's not criminal nature, do you redirect them to the fire department or do you respond?
Yeah, our 911 operators and our call takers are very good at triaging those, so they will be able to get the specific details about that circumstance and redirect it to the right service provider. And also the men and women who are the service providers, whether it's fire, bylaw, or police, they do a really good job if it's not an issue that is best suited for them at engaging with their partners and calling the right service. So I would say that for the public, do the best that you can to determine what you think. If it's a large fire, I'd say the fire department would be the primary responder. They'll certainly reach out to us. If it's something where you see it's a break and enter or damage to a business or something along the mischief line, please call the RCMP, and we'll certainly call the partners that we require to support us in resolving that issue.
Thanks, Lee.
Claudia.
Claudia, and I work with Global News for Superintendent Gable. Some might perceive this news conference today as a bit of a reactive measure. This social disorder, as you call it, didn't happen, wasn't created overnight. Businesses have been pleading for help, for support, for more patrols, more enforcement for some time. What is your response that perhaps this comes a little bit too late and is perceived as a reactive measure?
Right. And I really appreciate that question, because it is important to respond to those businesses. But one of the things that is important in regards to policing is, I use an iceberg analogy, and the things that the public is seeing is what's above the water, and what they're experiencing oftentimes is above the water. But there's a variety of challenges that we have to deal with, public safety challenges, where we're constantly triaging our priorities. The photos that I put to the left are an example of upstream drivers, but there's also a variety of other challenges that we have to deal with within a growing city such as Kelowna or any city in the province. And so where we identify the greatest risk, or we identify the greatest community concern, and then we have to determine and triage what we feel like is the most important thing from a public safety perspective to respond to. So sometimes it takes time, or sometimes we have other things that we're working on, but we'll continue to listen, and we'll continue to respond the best we can to make sure that we are meeting the needs of the community and ensuring public safety for everyone.
And just to follow up, if I may, it seems like one of the things the public will notice more of is these increased patrols, be it with RCMP and city bylaw. A lot of these crimes are happening at nighttime. Does that mean those patrols will be increased at nighttime? And if so, when we talk about an increase, can you paint a little bit of a picture and elaborate on what that increase looks like?
Right. I'm not going to say exactly the volume of resources or exactly the times. I wouldn't want it to defeat the purpose for those other folks that may be listening, but we will have an increase during the day as well as into the evening hours, and we're going to use the data that we have as well as the concerns from the citizens to determine when we can get the greatest return on investment for our resources to have the greatest impact on public safety.
Yeah, go ahead.
Brittany Webster with Kelowna Capital News. I'm not really sure who to direct this question to, as it's bylaw related. I've spoken with several businesses and have heard a couple stories where bylaw has been called in to assist with a disturbance of some sort. Didn't end up assisting the business and instead handed them a fine for something else, kind of deterring businesses from actually calling for help. Do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, obviously I'd be very interested in understanding the particulars of those particular situations so that we can review our response to it. We always want, our customers, our citizens, to have a good experience when interacting with all city staff. Obviously, the nature of bylaw services is as an enforcement agency, not always do people leave that interaction feeling positive about the outcome. Our bylaw services are highly trained in one of the more, if not the most reputable bylaw service in the province, bar none. And they are trained to take a progressive enforcement approach, meaning that when they see non-compliance on a particular issue, they first and foremost try to educate and get voluntary compliance using enforcement like tickets as a last resort. So I'll encourage anybody who has such complaints of interactions, they can direct those either to me as the Community Safety Director responsible for bylaw in our city, or to our manager, Kevin Mead of Bylaw Services.
Go ahead.
Kimberly Davidson, CBC News, also for the superintendent.
First of all, could you tell us a little more about the arrests in Lake Country and how the suspects are connected maybe to problems in Kelowna? You know, what the evidence is, how many businesses may have been impacted by these same people?
Right. So on a very high level, because it's still under investigation and it's multi-jurisdictional, at a very high level, there are a couple of people that were in custody from a break and enter, as you referred to in Lake Country. It's similar to the media release that we put out, and there is indications and evidence to suggest that they're responsible for a number of break and enters in Kelowna as well, which our teams in Kelowna are working very closely with the Lake Country RCMP to make sure that we have a good investigation and that we can bring those people responsible to the courts.
May I have a follow-up as well?
Yep, go ahead.
We know that there's just a few people that seem to commit most of the crimes. Could these two suspects, if they are indeed involved in Kelowna crimes, have a big impact in what's been going on?
As we've reported in the past, we do know that there's a large number of offenders who continue to repeat offend, and they commit a large proportion of the crime that we're seeing. And we do believe at this point that these folks, if in custody, will impact crime, but it's yet to be seen, obviously, what that may look like.
Go ahead.
Jesse Thomas, Info News. I'm hoping you can elaborate on what exactly you mean when you say social disorder or non-criminal social disorder.
I'll give you, if you give me a moment, I'll give you a couple of crime types that I can make a reference to. So we're talking about things such as unwanted persons calls, the check with the well-being, disturbance, theft, suspicious circumstances, drug using, mischief in progress, and Mental Health Act. Things would be predominantly social disorder type.
And what about non-criminal social disorder?
I'm not sure I have some of those things just being an unwanted person. I would say that would be something similar to being non-criminal.
Thanks, Jesse. Claudia.
How confident are you with the measures that are being put into place, that are being implemented to help with this so-called social disorder? How confident are you that they will make a difference? What kind of an impact are you expecting? And what is your message to businesses who are pleading for help before having to shut down their business?
It's a good question, kind of three questions in one. So I'll do my best, and you may have to remind me on the other one. So first and foremost, I think it's really important to acknowledge how people are feeling and how the businesses are feeling out there. We do believe that foot patrols, the extra patrols with bylaws and collaboration with the RCMP are going to make a difference from the point of when you show up to work and you're employed there or you're a customer, hopefully you don't see somebody on the sidewalk blocking your doorway with a tent or something that is not refusing to leave, or somebody that's making you feel unsafe and not allowing you to get into your business. I think it's no surprise to anybody that predominantly these issues are addiction driven. And so we recognize that we are part of the solution as enforcement. However, from our perspective, there has to be equal measures on not only the harm reduction that we are seeing, but also equivalently with enforcement, prevention, and treatment. And that's one thing that I think there's a significant gap at the moment, is there's insufficient treatment options available for people. So if we're predominantly seeing homeless folks who are suffering from addiction on the streets, who are either committing these crimes or the social disorder, then they need help and they need support. And if there isn't the help and support available for them, where are they supposed to go? So that means voluntary treatment options, so that we can actually look after them and support these folks, but also involuntary treatment through the courts for those that refuse to get help but are continuing to negatively impact public safety.
Let's follow up on that, I promise. Do you need the city to fund more RCMP officers?
RCMP officers are finite, like any other police service. And it's really, I think if you asked any leader of a police service, they're always going to want more and be able to do more. And we work very closely with the city of Kelowna to determine what type of resources that we can have that it not only gives us the best return on investment, but also meets the public interest of what the cost is associated with those resources. So we can always do more with more resources. And so that's, I think, where I'm gonna stop that.
Thank you. Yes, Brittany Webster again with Get Capital News. This is a question for Darren. Changes came down to the outdoor sheltering site in the city in 2025. Some of these businesses have kind of alluded to the fact that a lot of these people that were living at what we call Tent City have moved into the downtown core and are causing some of these problems. Is that what the city's understanding is, and what is being done to kind of curb those challenges?
Yeah. Couple questions in there, and the first one I want to deal with head on. I appreciate that for some looking at the situation, they think there's a cause and an effect, and there simply isn't. We have the opportunity through our work with our partners in BC Housing to actually track the movement of all of those who have been affected through the change in how our outdoor sheltering site is operating. And what we found through that is that more than 60 people have been able to move through the new site under the new design up into various levels of supportive housing. And that is absolutely essential to create that flow within the housing system, and getting people off of our streets is essential. On the contrary to what you're suggesting, our partners are all indicating and able to show that these are largely new faces, new individuals in our city that we're seeing in our downtown. And in fact, that's among the strategies that we are employing here, is to ensure that those new individuals in our city are aware of the supports and resources and the expectations for those who are living unhoused in our community.
To follow up on that, why do you think people are choosing to come here?
First of all, I don't think it's just choosing to come here, but I would say for many of the same reasons that we all choose to live here. Kelowna and the Okanagan is, I think, one of the most desirable locations to live and visit and work in all of North America. And it's the reason why we get to welcome people internationally, be it our climate and all the riches that Kelowna has to offer. I think many people choose to be here. But as it relates to people who are unhoused, let's be clear. Some of those are born and bred Kelowna residents who, for economic conditions and other reasons, have fallen into circumstances of poverty. And it's tragic, those who are living unhoused in our community. And yes, you will have individuals who are coming to Kelowna from other cities, particularly the prairies, I understand, more so of late. But again, that is true of cities across British Columbia and across North America. So it would be quite erroneous to highlight Kelowna as any different than many of the cities in British Columbia, which has a growing challenge of people who are unhoused, experiencing mental health and problematic substance use, all of which are provincial responsibilities.
Thanks, Brittany. Yeah, go ahead. Hi, Charlotte Grew with Radio Canada. I had a question regarding the new circle service. So concretely, what will it change for the public and the business owners? For example, will there be like a new line dedicated to this service?
I will encourage you to have a deeper conversation with Jamie Lee Lloyd-Smith, who is out the back as the coordinator of Canadian Mental Health Association Kelowna. But at a high level, what I expect is to see that individuals who are in crisis are going to receive a response from trained non-police people, culturally appropriate, trauma-informed response. And I think that will provide better outcomes. Also receive a level of follow-up and follow-through, which is a better response than simply de-escalating the situation in the moment and moving on. And on the other side, and this is very important, as the chief talked about, there is always finite resources. Is the key objective here, as it is in many cities across North America who have employed this model, we must free up our police. We must detask our police from being the default first responders in situations that are non-criminal. Research indicates that 60, 70, 80% of police calls are for non-criminal matters. And this is a small step in that direction to detask our police, and amazingly is funded by the federal, provincial, and municipal government, which is also a rarity.
As a follow-up, a question in French.
Je m'excuse, mon français.
I thought there was someone who spoke French.
After.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Ah, merci.
Okay, what? Two last questions. Go ahead.
All right, again, for the superintendent, we have spoke to business owners who say they have noticed a change in patrols, and they have noticed that they feel they are working. But they've also said, we don't want this to be a temporary plan. Is there resources, or how are you planning to maintain this so-called enhancement?
Well, as I said before, we do have those finite resources and we're constantly triaging priority, but we've heard loud and clear about these challenges. And I recognize that these challenges are not just downtown, but also Midtown, Rutland, and other areas in the city. So we're going to do the best that we can with those resources and try and find that balance to make sure that we're allowing people to feel safe as they go to work, that we're allowing people to feel safe as they're out enjoying the community, recognizing that we had over 55,000 calls for service last year for the RCMP. And so this is, there is a lot of work, and we're going to do the best we can to make sure that we meet all of the needs of the residents, recognizing that as we pivot from one challenge to the next, that just means that one that we've recently been working on may not receive the same level of attention, but we'll be attuned to it and we'll continue to adjust as the need is there.
No question.
One more, just,
Thanks, Cindy.
the budget has increased in the last 10 years, it's doubled in the last 10 years. For people out there, how do you explain to them where you're deploying these officers? Because we hear from people all the time, why are no police patrols in my neighborhood?
Right. Kelowna is a growing city, and with growing city comes growing challenges. And so again, we have to triage those priorities. The budget, I won't speak to the cost, but in every city in the province and in this country, policing continues to go up, and policing is more expensive. And as a taxpayer here, I'm very, feeling the same as everybody else, as though I don't want to spend more, but I want to get more service. And I take that feeling every day to work in terms of how can we get the greatest return on investment and maximize that investment for the best needs of the community. The reality is those are finite. And so we'll continue to triage where the priorities go and respond accordingly based on those calls for service and the greatest risk to public safety.
Superintendent Gable, you mentioned Rutland. What do you say to the businesses in the Rutland area who feel like because of all of the businesses in the downtown core becoming very vocal about the troubles they're experiencing, they feel like they're sort of being left behind? They want the same kind of enhanced patrols and enhanced security measures that downtown is now seeing. What is your response to those businesses?
Well, we're going to talk to those businesses and we're going to listen to those businesses. We've identified a community liaison officer who specifically works in Rutland and works with those businesses. And our targeted enforcement initiatives that we have put into place have specifically supported Rutland, and we've had some really good results. Now, that doesn't mean we can't be everywhere all the time, but we will be continuing to monitor the challenges and moving our resources as required to make sure that we're meeting the needs of everybody in the city.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, for attending. We appreciate that.